All right, welcome everybody to the platform development update. We are here bi-weekly to give you an update on the latest achievements of the development team on the platform side. So we have the 5 platform teams: the TenderDash, the GroveDB, the SDK, the protocol, and the Rust port. We are planning this session to be under 60 minutes. You can have your questions in the live chat. Please feel free to ask. We will have a dedicated time at the very end of this session where that's a Q&A session where we try to answer every platform related and related to the development update, every question that is related to the development update. So without further ado, let me give it to our first team, which is TenderDash.
Hi, so as also mentioned in the previous call, our first and primary goal right now is to develop and stabilize same block execution, which will give us ability to apply changes in the same block without waiting for the next block for confirmation. And we have 2 work items we planned for this period. First one was stabilization of same block execution, and this is done. Our unit tests pass. We just found some deadlocks which have their own task here, and we are working on that. Basically, it's not only consensus as we reported 2 weeks ago, but there are also in the peer-to-peer communication code. So we have multiple places where these deadlocks can be found, and that's in progress. So next 2 weeks, we will work on integration of same block execution with Drive, assuming the Drive team will be ready for this, and it will be discussed later. And also we already started working on better proof signatures for light clients, where we have a structure called state ID right now that is making it much easier for clients like a mobile app to verify the state and verify documents and transactions. And more information is needed there to get the proofs correct and full and ready for production use. Also, as we decided to do a hard fork, we are consolidating signature of these state ID proofs together with the block signature. So we'll just need to do one signing process instead of 2, which will give us some performance boost. And we'll continue with the deadlock investigation and testing. So this is hard to reproduce issue, but we need to spend time on that to avoid any issues in the future. And that's it in terms of the TenderDash.
All right, thank you very much. Then we move forward with the GroveDB team. Wisdom, would you kick us off?
Yeah, my name is Wisdom. On the GroveDB team. So the goal for the sprint were to integrate the GroveDB root trees. We made some changes to that, and then complete some trees. So can we go to the next slide? Okay, so during the course of the sprint, we had to fix some issues. So the first one is the replication feature. So the replication feature didn't work with references. So essentially, if the GroveDB state had references and then you tried to replicate it on a different machine, it just didn't work because of we didn't take into account the value hash when replicating. So we fixed this this beginning of the sprint and got that merged in. So that's fixed now. We also had another issue. We noticed another issue whereby the reference value did not affect the GroveDB state root. So references can be replaced with the elements that they point to. That's the base element. And so we cared only about the value hash and not necessarily about the path. So that means that you could have two references that point to the same, there's two different elements, but then the elements have the same value hash. So the references will look the same to the GroveDB states essentially. So we fixed that issue, and we got that bridged in also. So after that, we went back to sum trees. Last time we were still working on sum tree propagation, but that got finished. But then was not done completely. We still have batches to fix, and hopefully will be done in a couple of days. I have a demo to show the mechanism of sum trees, just how it works essentially, and then Sam will talk about how it benefits platform right after. So I'm going to share my screen now. Can you see my screen?
It works.
Okay, cool. So we added two new element types. We added a sum tree type and a sum item type. So essentially, a sum tree sums all the sum item elements underneath it. So for example, this big circle here represents a sum tree, and then the square values represent some items. So this is some item that has a value of 10, 20, 30, and minus 10. So it also accepts negative numbers. So when you combine everything together, you have like a sum value of 50. So let me just show the test for this. So first we insert the sum tree. So we insert an empty sum tree, which is the big circle we saw. And then we insert 5 sum items into the sum tree of values 10, 20, 30, and minus 10. So new sum item 10. So these are you insert a sum item. And then we do for 20, we do for 30, we do for minus 10. So
it's only 4 items.
Yeah, it's also 4 items.
Gotcha. Never mind.
Yeah. So we now retrieve the sum tree element. So the sum tree element is basically this element, and then we added this items underneath. So once we retrieve the sum tree element, we can then get the sum value from it. And there's an assertion here that checks that the sum value is actually 50. So if we run this test, you see that it passes, and I put a print statement to actually show the sum value, which is 50, and that's what we expected. Then the second one is now to show that you can also add regular items underneath the sum tree, and that should not affect the sum. So this is still the same tree, but then we have 2 regular items, so that's non-sum items, and then their values are basically anything you want it to be. So this is just hello and bye. So this is the demo 2. So the first part is still basically the same thing, but then here we add a new item rather than a new sum item. So this is hello and this is bye. And then we retrieve the sum tree element again, which is like this one. And then we assert that the value is still 50, even though we added some other items. So if we run this test, see that it passes also. And if we check the value, the sum value is still 50. So the final demo shows the propagation. So now we have a sum tree that has a sum item 10, but then it has 2 other sum trees. So now this sum tree has 2 further items, 5 and 10, and then this one has 2 items, minus 5 and 2. So the propagation basically means that the top sum tree would have the sum of all sum items like as down as possible. So essentially this is 5 and 10, which will make this 15. And then this is minus 5 and 2, which will make this minus 3. And then when you combine all this together, you get 22. So let me show the test for that. So yeah, we create a sum tree. Then we insert the sum item that is 10. and then we insert two empty trees, empty sum trees. So this is an empty sum tree, and this is another empty sum tree. So basically these two nodes. So now for the first empty sum tree, we insert a sum item of 5 and another sum item of 10, basically these two. And then finally, we insert a sum item of -5 and a sum item of 2. And then we retrieve the sum tree element, basically the big one, and then we print out the value and we assert that the sum value is actually equal to 22. So if we run this test, it passes, and then you can see that the value is actually 22. So you can have this at infinite depth, and then, okay, maybe not infinite, but you can have it as deep as you really would want, and it basically works. So that's cool. So we just need to fix batches, and then the feature can be merged in finally. So Sam is going to talk about how we can use this to help platform. Over to you, Sam.
Yeah, that was amazing, Wisdom. There is one thing that I just like to point out, is that often when we're talking about the multi levels of the tree, it's not always completely obvious that the way that GroveDB works is that you have different trees on different layers. And sometimes these trees, we refer to them as trees. Sometimes we refer to them as mercs. We use those two terms interchangeably. And what GroveDB is, basically, it's imagine just a stack of trees upon trees upon trees, of basically of mercs upon mercs upon mercs, and each level, the root can point to different. The root of one layer can point to an element in the above layer, and basically it branches out into a multi-dimensional tree. So what's so cool about these sum trees is that they also are a new Dash innovation that I don't think actually exists in any other project. And what's so cool about it is that you have like this two-factor kind of authentication. We can call it two-factor auth, but it's not at all the same technology as most people understand two-factor auth, but it is a two-level of authentication, a different way to verify that the total amount of value in your chain is what you think it is. There are a lot of chains out there that don't really, I mean, they don't really take security very, I don't really want to say bad things about other chains, but the thing is that we see that there have been exploits where money just is created out of nowhere. Maybe not money, but in platform, but value as the form of credits. I guess credits are also money because you can exchange them to Dash. But yeah, and what we really want to do is to make sure that this is basically impossible, that we get into inflationary bugs. So the sum trees really protect us here. What the sum tree can do is it takes all the identity balances, so basically all the accounts of the system, tallies them up, and checks that the amount that are in all the accounts plus the amount that's in all the distribution for masternode rewards. So all of that money together is equal to the amount that was locked into platform. So it will, at every block, verify that thing, and you can never get into an inflationary bug. Does that completely protect platform? No. What could still happen is, for example, a contract is badly written and like one user's account is drained and it's given to another user or another identity. But those are generally mistakes from the identity itself, and they can actually happen in our first release because we are very rigid about how transfers can happen between one identity and another identity. So most likely the other type of issue is impossible at release, and we're going to be very careful to make sure that we put in place protections when developers can write smart contracts so they do not hurt the users of their dApps. So yeah, let us move on to the next part of GroveDB. I think that we've been talking. So in the last few weeks, you've probably heard me talk a lot about fees. We put fees on hold a little bit because we had to go into the root tree mechanisms, and we really had to. We found that there was a design flaw that was incompatible with fees. I've talked about it in the last few weeks. And yeah, we removed basically, we changed how the root tree storage worked. And I'm very actually pleased to report that, the values that we thought we were going to get, we are getting. It's a lot less costs, a lot more performance. So it's really, good on multiple. I mean, it fixes the issue, and at the same time, it makes the system faster. One thing that was also in that we were going to do a little bit later, after we had done the root tree, was deletion up tree in batches. But the change of how the root tree storage was being done kind of forced us to do that sooner. So yeah, that was just done. It was not a very big task. It was half a day, but thought I'd put it in there because it was something that we had to do in the future. So where are we on the removal of root tree storage? Okay, so about 2 weeks ago, I would say that there was pretty much if you ran our tests, which we have about, I would say maybe 250 in GroveDB, there was 120 that were broken because we had basically ripped out something that was critical to the system and replaced it with a more performance solution. But basically, there were a lot of bugs left. There was, when you take like a pillar, a foundational pillar, and you change it, there are going to be a lot of issues. So there were 120 issues. At the moment, we still have 47, I believe, 47 or 48. So we have fixed most of those issues. And I believe a lot of the ones that are remaining are due to one issue around proofs. And we're in the process of fixing that. So probably we're going to see within the next 2 days about 30 or 40 of those disappear. And I'm hoping by the end of the week, we can basically finish this. Okay. Yeah, let's move on. So as I was saying, yes, we're fixing the final issues after removal of the root tree storage. We're continuing to, well, as we're doing that, we're verifying all the costs because all the costs have changed, right? They've all gone down, which is great, right? But you have to update the costs and you have to verify that the cost that you're expecting, the theory, matches reality. And that actually is extremely time consuming because you have like, okay, in theory, I should have 185 bytes written. And in practice, I'm having 187. Where are the 2 bytes coming from? It's like, and they're like little puzzles because you have to go all through your code until you realize where some 2 bytes are mishapped. And the reason why we really need to do that is because even though 2 bytes seems like nothing, it could actually be an exploit that would be exploitable at release. And you never want a situation where somebody could store an infinite amount of storage. So once we're done with those, we will continue on the worst case costs. And that's what we'll probably be doing in the next 2 weeks.
All right, thank you very much. Shall we move on?
Yep, let's go on.
SDK.
So Igor is not here. He's currently on holiday, and Ivan will be presenting SDK. Igor was working in the last 2 weeks, so we can present what he accomplished. Ivan?
Yeah, thank you for this honor. So Igor continued his work on the reworking of the synchronization process in Wallet library, and let's go for the items what he has done. So he worked like for for a long time on this the refactoring on the of the synchronization logic in wallet library, which is, I would say, not the easiest part, like logic wise. And this work is done, and all the tests, like including the integration and unit tests, are passing. And now our QA engineer Adam is working on on the testing of this thing. So next slide, please.
All right, next slide. I thought this is the part where, oh, okay. Please go on, Ivan.
Yeah, thank you. So you probably remember Igor already demonstrated the new web extension for the browser with Dash Pay and wallet inside, what he's created and demonstrated. And we had a discussion with our colleagues from Dash Incubator, how we can develop basically one JavaScript wallet, so we can use it as a browser extension and maybe as desktop application and other ways. And since like in DCG, we don't have extra capacity to develop this extension alone, we agreed that we will collaborate together with Incubator, and there are some candidates who can take it over and work together with us on this. And we got the first task done by one of the candidates. He implemented the sending of transactions between the wallets using the new synchronization logic, what was done recently. Balázs, could you please present this demo?
Yes.
Cool.
I'm
Now
trying
it looks
to find,
like
where is it?
it looks like a
Give
gray
me-
square.
Yeah, give me a second.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so you can see two browsers open and the extension activated in both of them, and you will see two wallets. And let's do it. So in the first wallet, we taking address, push the send transaction button, and sending some amount of Dash, and boom, and you can see in the first wallet the transaction received is confirmed, and ooh, that's basically it. It should be, well,
This should be it.
yeah, it should be it. So yeah, congratulations, and very glad that we have right now opportunity to have a JavaScript wallet as well, together with the mobile wallets. So what's next? When Igor come back from vacation, he is going to continue to work on the chain synchronization. So the next step is test not just in the local environment, but test against the testnet and devnets. And then when everything is fine, the next task is to handle reworks and implement additional consensus checks in the SPV library what we use. When it's done and basically the synchronization process stabilized and secured, he is going to work on the keychain storage, which is at the moment, I would say, like in a pretty basic state and it's not production ready. So he plans to secure it and like basically protect from the key leaking and such stuff. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Shall we move on to protocol?
I hope Igor is having fun now. Okay.
Wish him a great time.
Yeah. So the protocol team last sprint was focused on the deployment of the alpha version of platform. This is not complete version of 23 because we still are working on the phase, as already was explained by Sam. But we want to test the functionality what already exists in version 23 earlier. So 2 sprints ago, we released the alpha version, and this sprint we spent on the releasing this new alpha version together with the infrastructure team. And this deployment was pretty complex because we had to basically rebuild testnet infrastructure to support like new architecture and use the latest OS, like we use Ubuntu there. So infrastructure team successfully rebuilt the infrastructure with new improvements what we prepared for version 23, and we were able to deploy new platform 23 alpha and new core 18 on testnet. It worked for several days, but on the weekend we faced with some issue in drive and chain halt. We forgot, like in version 23, we just by mistake we disable support of arrays in data contracts, and someone broadcasted new data contract with arrays and chain halted. So the good news, this bug is fixed. So we re-added support of arrays back, and now we are preparing the release. So we're expecting platform working soon, probably today or early tomorrow. Yeah, and together with the testnet deployment, we released new alpha versions of the Dashmate and SDK. So you can test and like you can test the new features and continue development with testnet as soon as we fix it. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Could you go to the next slide?
Oh, of course.
Thank you. Javid, would you like to talk about the withdrawals? Have good news?
Good news, everyone. We're finally achieved a success in finalizing and merging the withdrawal transaction queues. Also, we call them asset and lock transaction withdrawal queues. Those are done to kind of delay the processing of the withdrawals and made a delayed payment. Also, we successfully finalized and merged another huge chunk of work regarding withdrawals is signing those withdrawals or asset lock transactions using the new version of TenderDash and the mechanism of vault extensions. So those 2 huge milestones are finally merged, and I'm extremely happy about that. That was a huge amount of work, and I'm extremely happy. And that's basically it. I'm just delivering you my joy.
Thank you. Thank you, Javid. Kostya, would you continue?
Yeah, sure. So We started implementing SSL support in previous sprints, and this sprint finally it's ready. I mean, the whole task. In a few words, you can enable SSL support for the platform node using either your own certificate or zero SSL certificate, which can be obtained and renewed automatically. And for the local development, you can use self-signed certificates, which can be created automatically as well. So the last part was a special service, let's say, which can renew zero SSL certificates automatically. Yeah, and now it's also ready. The next one, Lukasz has already mentioned new same block execution model in TenderDash, and since it has been implemented in TenderDash, we started implementing this model in Drive. Let's talk about it just in a few words. So, as you probably know, TenderDash uses a BCI protocol inside, and in the original ABCI protocol, the moment when the application has access to a block was after it was decided. It means that blocks are executed against the app only after they are committed, and this led to the block execution model called next block execution, which we're using right now. And with BCI++ protocol, let's say improved version of BCI, which is implemented in TenderDash as well. It's possible to have a new block execution model, which is called same block execution. And as you can see from the title, the application implementing this execution model fully executes transactions as though it was the decided block. Yeah. And in addition, the code becomes a little bit more clear and simple. That's it, I guess.
Thank you.
Thank you, Costa. Congrats, guys. And I would like just only mention that the tasks what just guys discussed, they are development for the version 24 and not for 23, what we just like releasing. So we should expect the withdrawal functionality when you can move credits back to Dash in version 24, and also we are going to test the HTTPS for DAPI with 24 version deployment on testnet. So that we will see a little bit later. Yeah, so multi-transaction support in Drive, we discussed it already a few times. This is part of the same block execution work. Since we could have several candidates for the block with the same height, and we need to keep the modified state for each block candidate in memory, and then one of them will achieve more votes, like we'll get more votes and will be committed. So that's why we need this multi-transaction. We try to implement this task in a proper way, but it seems like actually the right approach here is the simpler is better, basically. So we're working on this at this moment, and it's going to be done soon. Also, we updated platform to support recent breaking changes in version 18.1. And so you can see already the result of it on testnet. So the platform working with 18.1. And together with that, we updated Insight to support Core 18 as well. And thank you for the contribution from incubator who mostly done this work. We already updated Insight on testnet, and I guess the on infrastructure team probably already updated or going to update Insight on mainnet very soon. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. So as soon the all modifications what were mentioned by Sam will be done on GroveDB, we will we will continue the basically accomplish the work on the drive side for the fee system and in DPP. That's we're gonna work soon, and we continue work on withdrawals. Actually the last part of it is the reset functionality, which is needed in special cases when, for example, platform chain halted or there was some propagation issues, when the miner for some reason didn't mine this set unlock transaction, and but withdrawal already happened on the platform side, so the user will be able basically to restart withdrawal and to like.
Can I talk about this for 5 seconds?
Sure, mate.
Sure. Thanks. So the withdrawal transaction has a validity of 2 weeks to be mined after, or maybe not 2 weeks. It's between a day and 2 weeks. I'm not sure of the exact time. Most of the time, this will always happen. But there could be a situation, it is not impossible, where the withdrawal happens and it doesn't get mined in core. Maybe platform got stuck for 2 weeks. So in that case, you've already withdrawn, you've already removed the credits from the system. It is in a pending state, and you basically need to reset the withdrawal because it wasn't yet done. There are security mechanisms around this. I don't actually think that the reset withdrawal will be used almost ever, but if it is needed, we don't want people to not be able to take their money out, right? So it's not a very complicated feature, but it protects everybody in the network if something goes wrong.
Cool. Thank you, Sam. Yeah, we paused our work due to more urgent work with BLS Rust binding, and we're going to continue and accomplish this this thing. So, and we will continue to work on same block execution next sprint as well. So that's our plans for the future.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the Rust port update. Pavel, would you kick us off?
Yeah, hello guys. We about to give you an update regarding our efforts in terms of migration the platform into the Rust. Just a quick reminder, the goal of the entire effort is to improve the quality, performance, and security of the platform. So starting from the top, last couple of weeks, I've been working on porting the changes from version 23 to the Rust TPP. And I'm happy to announce that development-related work for all 22 tasks, it's done. But why it's in, so basically we have still a couple of stories or a couple of tasks still in review, but I really hope that sooner or later that will be part of the main branch. So as it's part of the as it's kind of ending or of milestone, so there is a short conclusion for you guys. I mean,
technically importing GS to Rust, it's not that easy as it seems. So if you ever try to do this, please do it sooner than later, because well, for one reason is kind of obvious, because Rust and JavaScript are standing opposite sides in terms of consistency, right, and requirements in terms of typing. Additional difficulty that was kind of typical for our case was related to that the protocol architecture is a kind of monolithic. So if you change one thing, automatically spreads on the other parts. So that's why we had to during the migration to be as close as possible to original GS implementation. So what introduced additional difficulty into the process, and it comes from some consequences, as I will talk about them in seconds. But yeah, in the end, the overall work is done in this aspect, and if this is the kind of end of the chapter, so it opens another chapters as well, and most of all, we are finally able to fully integrate the Rust version of the platform with GS part of the platform. Which we'll talk about, which Anton will talk about this in seconds. And another thing which actually another road we can take from that point is possibility to improve the overall DPP implementation, because we see a lot of potential of improving the DPP Rust DPP implementation in terms of how idiomatic is implemented, and in terms of obviously performance optimization. So this is probably some steps, next iterations for that part to be done. So yeah, that's I think all for me in terms of migration of changes from version 23. Anton, could you go next?
Yep, sure. Thank you, Pavel, for the update. That was very detailed and very good. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the state of the JavaScript DPP binding that we're making from the Rust binding, from the Rust implementation, and also about some other stuff that came up the last sprint that we've needed to quickly do as soon as possible. So first of all, yeah, just as Pavel mentioned, we are shaking, kind of reshaking our JavaScript Rust DPP binding a little bit right now to make it a little bit better, in a sense that we'll create an interface that makes more sense and is better, more interoperable with the rest of the JavaScript platform we have right now. So that is that. Also, the thing that came out this week, and we've spent some time doing that, is that in V19 that we're probably about to release sometime in the future, we will have a big, not a big, but we will have a BLS update to match the IETF V1 spec that a lot of other projects that are using BLS right now is using. Dash was the first one to actually use BLS in production, and we've used the pre-standard version kind of, and right now IATF actually has a standard. And so since we are going to switch the core to that, we also needed to port all the changes to JavaScript implementations of the core library, and we spent some time this week doing that as well. So that is my update. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, Anton. And thank you, Pavel. And let's see, as I don't see any development update related questions.
In the meantime, if people want to ask questions, please go ahead. I wanted to give a quick update on core, because our core team, this is a platform development update, but just a quick shout out to the core team that just released 18.1 on schedule. might I add. Well, on schedule since last week. A week ago, we said we were releasing 18.02 I think the next day, and 18.1 in a week, and we released 18.02 in a day and 18.1 in a week. So for once, times that were said were delivered on, and that's great. So if you are a Masternode owner, or if you have a node running, please update to 18.1. It might seem that while this is a minor version, it has over 100 changes, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, between 18 and 18.1. It represents probably about 4 months to 5 months worth of work. There are no breaking changes, but it does improve a lot on efficiency of your node. So
thank you, Sam.
Yes, the next thing I wanted to say is we're moving on to V19, and that will be the next thing on the roadmap. So V19 of core will have, we've been talking today about the update to the IETF spec of BLS, and that's will be in V19. There will also be platform locks, credit locks and credit unlocks.
Hi, Sam. I heard you were talking about me.
Hey,
Hello,
there you
Pasta.
are. Yeah,
Hey.
so
You
since
wanna
you're
get-
giving this
you wanna
update,
talk?
maybe I can speak a little bit about it. Yeah,
Please
so
do.
we're actually doing really good so far on the BLS work and the asset locks that are the two major features coming out in V19. We're also very excited about V18.1. That is a move towards a more having smaller versions, and we're pretty excited about that. Even though 18.1 has about, I think, 500 to 600 commits, it's still a lot smaller than our major releases are. And so we're really excited about having a more progressive release structure where we are continually progressing and we're continually releasing stuff. And so that's really cool for us. Yeah, so we're actually pretty much development work complete on both asset locks and on the BLS upgrade, which is really cool. And so now we're in testing phase for both of those features. Konstantine's doing a great job implementing a bunch of tests, and Odie has been focusing hard on the DevNet deployments of his BLS code. And so we are, testing that and figuring that out, and we're looking pretty good for V19. So at this point, I think Odie is even beginning to work on the enhanced hard fork mechanism, which will be a very welcome improvement to how we hard fork in version 19. Yeah.
Excellent. Do you have a rough estimate to give on when that will hit testnet?
So it really for 19, it really depends how this how the testing for BLS and asset locks goes. Basically, once they get merged, we will probably be deploying to a testnet with an alpha build of some kind, or, well,
You mean
not
a
necessarily
DevNet?
an alpha build, but like a beta build, or maybe even a release candidate, depending on where we are in that release cycle. When it comes to testnet, we are considering doing a 18.2 because we have had another, 50 to 100 commits to develop since we tagged 18.1. So we are considering doing an 18.2 that updates a couple of things, does a couple more backports. And then, so probably, I would say probably within a month from now is when I would expect that we are we're deploying or getting ready to deploy on testnet for version 19, probably within a month from now. I think that makes sense. That is tentative. I don't have a firm plan on that, but it's really how the testing leads us, but that's kind of the current idea based on how testing is going so far.
And keep me honest here, V19 has pretty much everything needed for platform except the reward redistribution, correct?
Yeah, and if we wanted to, we could put it in there in V19, but probably that'll be in a subsequent release so that, you know, we're not siphoning off block rewards to platform when you're not able to withdraw from platform yet.
Yes, exactly. In the past, if people remember, V18 release came about a year and 3 months after V17. It was the longest we had been between two versions, and we really don't want to do that anymore. So now, if V19 is ready, we will just release V19, obviously not with any reward distribution because platform's not ready yet. And then, you know, we'll just create another version for platform with just basically activating platform the day that platform is ready.
Yeah. And how we're going to do that is still a little up in the air. You know, there might even be a implementation that we can do that kind of consolidates them to one hard fork. Maybe, you know, we use something like the enhanced hard forking mechanism kind of twice, so that there doesn't actually have to be two releases, but once enough nodes are running platform, then the distribution splits or something like that. We're gonna, you know, think about ways that we can do stuff to maybe not have two releases, but probably it'll be two releases.
Okay, so we just got a question from James Doe asking for others. When's the next network stress test? Well, XKCD said he was going to do that. So we'd have to ask him. I'm not sure. He said he was going to do it yesterday, but I think we might have convinced him to wait for 18.1. So it's probably going to happen very soon, if it hadn't happened already yesterday.
Yeah, normally he would talk to me if he was actively doing it. So I don't think that he has done that, but
yeah, me neither.
All right. Is there anything else? I mean, from the team, I'm asking the team, is there anything else? I see, more questions in the stream. If nothing else, I would like to thank you all for the team. Why isn't here on a dev update? Why isn't he here on
XKCD? Yeah, well, XKCD is not part of DCG. And it's very late for him right now. So, I mean, if he ever wants to talk about the stress test in 2 weeks, he's invited.
Absolutely. All right. If nothing else, and wish you a great rest of the day and see you in